What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Off the Ball Network. I am Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports. This is my partner, Stuart Brooking from the Morning Brew with Stu. Stuart, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Great, man. We're going to have a little fun. You and I both are kind of passionate about college football and, NFL draft prospects and things like that. So March, the Off the Ball Network is going to make a really big push for like a ton of NFL draft preparation content. We're going to break down players. We got guys, divided up. We're going to have lots of shows on us. We're going to kind of kick it off here, man. Let's be honest with you. We live in the Midwest. The ice has stuck a little bit at home. We're trying to make the best of it. We're fortunate enough to have power and internet right now. We hope everybody out there is being safe, and this gives you a break from shoveling or thawing or whatever you've been doing. So me and Stuart what we're gonna do here is we're gonna have a little watch party. We're gonna put up some highlights of 5 of the bigger name quarterbacks of the year, and we're just gonna kind of commentate as we go. If you can watch along, that's great. If you're just listening, I hope it makes sense to you. But so this is the quarterbacks, and we're going to do it. So before we get started here, Stuart, how do you, before we watch these, like real quick, how do you have the quarterbacks rank, say 1 through 4 or whatever, coming into the draft this year?
Going into the draft, I shout out to Steven. Despite what Steven says about Trevor Lawrence, I think Lawrence is the number 1 quarterback in this draft. And then, as much as we talked before the show started, I love Justin Fields. I think there's a gap, not a big gap, but a gap to Justin Fields. And then there's another gap. And my third quarterback would be Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, and then Mac Jones.
All right. Now, I don't have any Mac Jones highlights, so we're going to go through Zach Wilson today, Trevor Lawrence. And these are highlights, people, so we know they're going to all look great. We're going to do what we can with them. It is really hard to get game film in college like it is the NFL. So we got Trevor Lawrence, we got Zach Wilson, we got Trey Lance, which is really fun to watch. We got Sam Ehlinger we threw in there because it was kind of a little bit of a discussion we had amongst the Off the Ball Network. And then we got Justin Fields. And I don't know what order. We're going to start with Zach Wilson. You got hopefully if anybody's watching, the volume's a problem or anything, you guys let me know, and we'll get started here. So this,
I know these are highlights, but I do have some things that I've mentally taken notes of each that like they do kind of negatively that I could talk about when we like get to each player.
Absolutely. So here we go. We're gonna start with Zach Wilson, which everybody knows. Zach Wilson, BYU. Right now, basically, there we go. 6'3", 210, junior coming out of BYU. And let's just kind of roll through it here. A lot of play action stuff in here. I mean,
I can't see it, Jeff.
Oh, I apologize. Stuart, good call, man. I didn't share the screen. That is on me, people. How about this? Is that a little better?
There we go.
I am sorry about that, my man. So we'll take it from there. They'll show a replay here. Obviously, but just I like the arm strength. That was from the 50, so that's essentially 50 yards in the air. Pretty quick release, keeps his hands high, which I love.
I will say the thing that I like there, at least on that throw, was, and this is what you'll see a lot from him, a guy who's not built very big, kind of like Kyler Murray. He wasn't built very big, but look at this. The linebacker, he sees him coming, just stays in there and takes that shot. I don't know whether to be impressed or like, please don't do that because of his body build, but I was impressed by watching, seeing the contact and him being able to stand in there and make those throws.
Yeah, he's obviously an athletic guy. He's probably a kid that was the best basketball player, tennis player, whatever he did in high school. He's not built durably, but today's NFL, we know with the rules and stuff, you can get by without being like Baker Mayfield isn't a powerhouse. He's not built like Cam Newton. Like you can play. Well, I mean, look, how many times you got to bring it up? Tom Brady is not. Yeah. Tom Brady's not Cam Newton, and he's found a way to survive. He just. I think what I like the most. I mean, these are.
This is what I like the most, right there. That playmaking ability. I mean, the other guy you mentioned, Tom Brady, but the other guy that just played in the Super Bowl has some of the same traits. I don't want to compare him to Patrick Mahomes because that's high praise. I mean, he makes some of those. some of those plays.
What I like to build on that is when he recognizes where he wants to throw it, the ball comes out. It's really, really quick from recognition to release, and I like that a lot. I apologize if anybody's a comment or anything. For whatever reason, I am not getting comments today on StreamYard. So, oh no, there we go. There's a couple. Sorry about that. There we go.
On that throw itself, that last one that we just saw, I would have liked to see him put that one a little bit more in front of his receiver.
Yeah.
But, you know,
and
you have to take what you can.
So there you go. I mean, plants. I mean, the feet are in the right. He just flicks it out there. Good. I mean, but the main thing I see is just the release, where he keeps his hands, keeps that ball up there. He doesn't look like a fumbler, so to speak. Now, stuff like this, I'm glad he's athletic. This doesn't translate. Like Devin White mashes him at the 10. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to, I'm not saying you don't want a guy that can run, but that's really, I look at the pocket though he has against this competition. It's so hard. When we watch these next guys like that played, like for instance, Lawrence and Fields that played higher level, they don't have the room, and that's not his fault. He's doing with what but you don't have, look at this pocket. You don't have this in the NFL much. He takes off running, but it's still.
And that's the thing. And that's the question I have regarding, Zach Wilson. Did we see necessarily the best things versus Indiana when Justin Fields got pressured? No, we didn't. But what you could do as a coach is say, okay, this is what he did do. Now we can work on that. We can fix it. Zach Wilson, you're not going to know until it's trial by fire, and then it could be too late.
But wow, what a throw right there! Wow. I mean, like I said, it's just highlights, but the kids, look at his arm talent. I mean, that's a flick.
I mean, I told you on my podcast, the reason I fell in love with Zach Wilson is the same reason I fell in love with Jordan Love last year. When he made some of those throws, you looked at the throws he made in college.
They're very similar.
And you said, oh my God, like these are big league throws.
Look at that. Another one there. And of course, in its most college quarterbacks now, you don't get to see a lot of reading the defense. I mean, these are RPOs, basic stuff, and it's not. But I mean, right there's one guy rushing essentially because they've got everybody back trying to stop Wilson's arm. But the way he still, you can see how he sets his feet. Great arm strength, so forth. I mean, he's an impressive guy for sure. I don't, when I watch this, like I don't see what would possibly jump him over Lawrence, which we'll get to Lawrence here in a minute.
Yeah. We could talk about that tweet too. Like I agree with most of her tweets, but with most of her quarterback rankings. And I saw a lot of people bashing the lady on Twitter that posted that tweet about putting Zach Wilson up there. And like, I'm not going to bash. I was just curious as to what she saw that put Zach Wilson above.
Me too.
Trevor Lawrence. I mean, I'm not going to say, oh, she was stupid or any of that stuff. Cause like, that's just, I mean, me and you do rankings all the time, Jeff. We know that like not everyone's going to agree.
Right. And everybody has different reasoning.
Yes. So like, I'm ultimately curious as to what the reasoning was, but I clearly think Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft.
Yeah, let's see. This is just a quick commercial here. Sorry, everybody, but what is hard about this? I mean, just once again, look at the protection. Like he ran, but like there's not the emphasis.
Jeez,
his ball placement's great.
Yeah. Sure. So some of the questions I have about Zach Wilson are some of the things that we're starting to hear about maturity and leadership. You're starting to hear the same things you hear about him that you heard about Josh Rosen when Josh Rosen came out, which, looking at it, like everyone's like, oh, Josh Rosen, but he's not a very good teammate. Some of those things to me, the frame is still a little like his body's still a little,
it's got to be a negative
concerning to me.
He doesn't even look the 6'3" that he's listed.
Yes. That's what I'm saying.
He doesn't play very big, as to where like a guy like Fields, for instance, I think might be a little more stout than people think he is, because he appears to be more like a basketball build. But when you really start looking at him, he's got a great, more of a durable structure. And once again, not that you can't survive in the NFL without that.
Yeah. And then
it's a negative if you're spending this kind of money and this is your franchise. If you're drafting wherever Wilson goes, He is the franchise quarterback.
And there's a good chance he'll wear a horseshoe on the side of his helmet next year.
You think so? You think he gets?
Well, here's the thing. I mean, Carson Wentz is likely going to be a Bear from all.
That's what it sounds like.
And I listened to a local radio show with Chris Ballard, and he basically said in a way that you pile all these draft picks up so you can make a move. And if there was going to be a time to do that, this is the draft to do it. Everything that he says, it makes me more and more thinking that he's going to take a quarterback in this draft class. So I feel like it's going to be Wilson or it's going to be Fields.
Yeah, but let me see. We'll see if they show any of the Coastal Carolina game before we move on here, because that was his quote unquote worst game and his toughest game. But it's just so hard to judge this. I mean, look at this time. Like, what would Fields or Lawrence or Lance do with? I mean, it's so hard to judge what they're going to do when that pocket gets cluttered. You know what I mean? When there's junk at their feet. We'll see some highlights later. Like I said, of the other guys, and I mean they do some impressive stuff with people right in their grill. Once again, not Wilson's fault. We understand. Oh yeah.
But you also have to take into consideration, Jeff, and I hate to do this because they get bad knocks all the time, and guys like Josh Allen played there, but you have to look at the level of competition that they're playing. Like San Diego State, do you see a pass rusher coming out of San Diego State this year? No, you don't.
No, you have to look at that, though. It's a real thing.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to discredit Zach Wilson that way, but I can't name you one pass rusher that's coming from San Diego State.
Yep. I mean,
or Oregon State in this instance.
Okay, like this right here. This is the only time I won't rewind much, but this is one that we can. Oops. See, I knew I shouldn't have done it. Let's see. I just want to see this here because these are these things that I like to point out. Okay, right here. This is the play, just real quick. This goes down as a great highlight and a play right after this. But we'll see what we really see here. Okay, watch. Okay. Yeah, got in his face. Great throw. Or is it? Or does he just lob it up? And, these are things that don't translate. Like any quarterback can do this. That's your wide receiver being better than the cornerback. That's the things that, you got to take off of people's resume. Now, that right there is great. Now, we're talking wrong foot, running, throwing against the grain play right there. Let's look at that one again real quick because I like – not setting, sorry. Let's watch that last one again, and then we'll move on to the next quarterback. There we go. I like this. Sprint out of the pocket, across his body, great throw. Now that translates. That's an NFL play right there. That's Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, those are some things that you see happen a lot. And people will look at the 30 touchdowns and the 3 picks, and they'll lose their mind. And it is it's great. And he's shown some great things on the film. But I just think that, when you take into consideration some of the other guys, Justin Fields, clearly to me, like I told you off the air, is clearly the number 2 quarterback. And I'm tired of seeing Zach Wilson in these mock drafts going above Justin Fields.
And I'll just keep in mind, I've vouched for Stewart. He likes Wilson, but just not that much. So who do you want to go to next? Lawrence, Lance, Ehlinger, Fields?
Let's do Lawrence.
Okay. I'll skip this ad. There we go. I'll bring it up here in a second.
There's going to be a lot of good here. I'm going to start off by my negative that I have against Trevor Lawrence. It's one that you don't hear hardly at all. And the negative I have that concerns me about Trevor Lawrence is he hasn't dramatically improved since his freshman year.
Yeah, I did notice that. But here's what you do see. And first of all, what you see is the receivers are ridiculous. There's NFL receivers he's throwing. Yeah. But this ball comes out of his hand different. I'm sorry.
It does.
It really, I'm starting to see what people see. When he lets it go, it gets there.
It's different. Yeah. When that ball leaves his hands, it has that pop.
Yeah. And it's now they do knock him, and they're right. If you watch his throwing motion, he does drop that hand and kind of do that circle motion, which gets a lot of guys in trouble in the NFL with fumbles. You see it over the years, time and time. That's things that can be worked on. But man, when look at just he can put the heat on it. He's got some touch passes in here that are pretty impressive.
But that's how they're teaching it these days too, because it's a quicker release that way. They're keeping it, you kind of go vertical with the ground and then come up as well.
Yeah, look at that.
It's beautiful.
Here's a touch. Once again, that's your receiver's better than their defender. But somebody has to throw the ball.
But one thing that you're not seeing here, or that you will see very little of, is probably the Ohio State game. And he played very bad when under pressure in that Ohio State game.
Yeah,
very bad.
I don't think the Ohio State made these highlights. I had to pick ones that we'll see maybe later on. I don't know if they do. But then here's when you look at his athletic ability compared to Wilson, it's not even they're two different players. Like Wilson looks very athletic, and then you see Lawrence, and you're like, oh.
But Lawrence is this is why he's drawn comparisons to Andrew Luck. Like Andrew Luck wasn't. Did you know he ran the same 40 time as Cam Newton?
Yeah.
You wouldn't know it, but he did.
Andrew Luck was a freak.
Yeah. And so is Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I was getting down on Lawrence a little, and I think that Sugar Bowl is, but that's pretty. This is that's Duke. You know what I mean? Not all these teams are great, but man, that ball really zings. His receivers are in stride. His pocket's not super cluttered all the time. There you go. That's a throw you're going to be asked to make a lot in the NFL.
Yeah.
But see, even that right there, even that pocket's closing in more than, what we saw. This against Notre Dame.
But did you see that ball there, Jeff? That ball was in front of the receiver. That same ball it's the same one that Zach Wilson threw, and his receiver had to kind of turn his body back to go get it.
His receivers,
that's the difference.
They're running almost full speed every time. Once again, these are highlights. Of course, they're not going to put negatives in there, but still, you can. But look at this. Now, right there is a pass. I know it was deflected and all that, but the trajectory, where it was put, that's big time throw right there on the sideline. And I didn't give him enough credit for his ball placement until I really started going back and watching. And he throws away from defenders. He throws away from coverage. He throws guys open way better than I gave him credit for.
Yeah. Which is why I think that it will work for him ultimately, because you look at it, and to me, Lawrence is, he's just clearly the best quarterback in this draft.
I was later in the year, I was starting to have doubts. And of course you watch the Sugar Bowl and what Fields did against him. But really, when you go, you go back and look at the whole picture, there's no reason if he's not a perfect fit for Jacksonville, I just don't know who is.
I hate the fact that we're going to have to play him twice a year. For the next
look at that. There's a great one. Guy in his face against Alabama. We're talking national championship game here. These aren't scrubs. And then of course this. That reminds me right there. That's Justin Herbert right there. Is what we saw from Herbert this year.
Yeah,
big guy, athletic guy. Andrew Luck's a good comparison. He could do some of that. But look at that shuffle in the pocket, and just takes advantage of his talent. But there's always a mismatch in talent with these guys, and that's why they go to Clemson. But A&M, 12th ranked A&M. No, see, this is impressive. That's really impressive. Nice fake, nice release. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of good with Trevor Lawrence. A lot.
Yeah, and there's very little bad. That's so rare to see a prospect.
It's one game.
Who has very little bad.
3 years. 3 years, the guy played 5 playoff games in 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And our only bad is a playoff game. Well, of course Wilson didn't have a bad. He didn't play Ohio State. Do we think Zach Wilson torches Ohio State in that bowl game? I don't think so.
That's the same thing. I hate to keep bringing him up, but back to the Jordan Love thing. Everybody was talking about how good Jordan Love was, but then he played LSU and he got the breaks beat off him. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't
And
want to say
and we understand the talent difference between
yes.
Offensive line and all that. I know what you're saying, but I hate when a guy gets graded for playing a better team. Like it doesn't seem fair. Like, well, yeah, of course Zach Wilson didn't have that game because he didn't play it.
Yeah, and also like at the same time too, like yeah, I mean, you have to look at how individuals play in those games, and Trevor Lawrence has shown up in some of the biggest moments of his career.
Oh yeah, I mean his freshman year. I mean that was tremendous run his freshman year. What the last 8 I think games he played that year after they benched Kelly.
I've been a Lawrence guy since his senior year of high school. I watched him in the Elite 11, and I made a tweet instantly saying that if Clemson wants to win a national championship, they'll bench Kelly Bryant, put Trevor Lawrence in, and they did. All I was trying to say is I've known since like the senior year that this guy's the next guy.
Yeah. No, he was everything. That's why I said they almost chip away at him because he's got so much film because he started for almost 3 full years. So there's so much tape on him that if he had time to do bad as to where like nobody's really going back and looking at Wilson's first 2 years. They're looking at this year. I mean, that's just the truth. And Fields has 2 years, but he had this weird shortened year. So he's got 1 full year. And then this year, he's got half the tape of Lawrence, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be – but, I mean – yeah.
And I think something that you could fall into with that with Zach Wilson is the same thing that the Bears fell into with Mitchell Trubisky. No, like nothing to knock against Trubisky and the way that he played, but, I mean, they had 1 season. They didn't have much to draw off of.
Right.
And then they traded up to draft him above a guy like Mahomes and Watson, and it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, his running ability is great. We'll speed it up here because it just keeps getting better. I mean, it's just never really – look at that. There's a cluttered pocket and bang. That's impressive. That's number 23 Virginia at the time. That's not scrub team. Little pressure in his face. Step up. He might take off running here, but nope. I mean, that right there, that'll – not an NFL catch, but that works. Good placement, though. Not a waste. Worst case, it's incomplete. None of these guys really take a lot of sacks. Because their teams are so good that, you can go like even I think Fields in his career got sacked 12 times. Like it's not even worth trying to figure that out. I mean, Fields held the ball too long sometimes. Lawrence had a bad Sugar Bowl. They're not going to. There's probably no footage of the Sugar Bowl for him to put on here, if we're being honest. I mean, he really had a bad game.
Well, to be honest with you, like watching this, Jeff, and you'll see it later on with Sam Ehlinger. But when you watch Trevor Lawrence and his motion, from the way that he rotates his core to the way that that his arm and his core are in sync, his arm doesn't trail behind. That's why it's so good and the ball pops off differently.
I could do without these highlights, but I'll be a pro here and stick through it. Okay, good. We got through that pretty quick. I mean, look at that. I mean, that's big time. Against great defense.
I mean, he took a shot there, too. How many quarterbacks do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like he's 6'6", 250. I mean, he's like 6'6", 220.
Yeah.
He's skinny for a guy at 6'6".
Yeah.
And he's taking shots like that. I mean, he's not scared. Because in Jacksonville, you're going to be getting that a lot.
Yep. And that is something to think about. These young quarterbacks, they don't go to good teams. Now, I think Jacksonville, I think they're one of those bad teams that's not as bad.
Yes.
I think the Jets, like whoever goes to the Jets, if they do take a, Fields or somebody, I think that quarterback's going to get hit a little bit more, even though they've got some offensive line talent. I think Jacksonville is more plug and play than people think.
Yeah, I agree.
We saw when Minshew when he was playing good. I'm not all
they
that
were 7-9. So I mean, if they had a quarterback that was, I mean, Trevor Lawrence coming in is going to be a top 15 quarterback as soon as he steps in. So I mean, they'll compete for 9-7 next year.
Yeah, and we know all these quarterbacks look great. We talked about it. Let's see how late they go here in his career.
I do think it would be a mistake if the Jets took a quarterback, but that's a conversation for a different time.
I don't think they should either, but and I still can't figure it out. Well, until we find out what happens to Watson, and then if he's going to Miami, then we find out what happens to Tua, and then we find out, and Carson Wentz, until we find all these chips fall, like we don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like you said, the Colts may trade up, or I have no idea. Like Houston, could they possibly trade to get that Miami pick back? What's Miami got the third or fourth pick from Houston?
They got the third pick. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all of a sudden Houston, say they don't say Tua is not their guy. Like do they pull off something to where then all of a sudden they're picking a quarterback? I just until those chips fall, man.
Yeah, I would expect Houston to make a trade kind of like you saw with the Rams, where they kind of exchange quarterbacks to where they're not completely handicapping their future.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, Trevor Lawrence is good. That's what we know. That's our official take on that. Trevor Lawrence was a good football player. Let's see here. Let's go to who you want next?
I was gonna say, let's go to your boy.
Okay, we can do that. Let me get him set up here. Oop. These are the radio calls too, so they were pretty good. Okay.
I don't know about you, but when you listen to the radio calls, does it not like do you ever get to points where like you're in your car and you're like, because the play-by-play guy that used to do it for the Colts, like he'd have you on cloud 9 one moment, and the next moment you're ready to drive off a bridge.
Our guy's pretty upbeat, but yeah, I like to watch the video highlights with the radio call, if that makes any sense. Like these.
Yes.
This is a legendary Paul Keel. This is I believe this is like who we got here. Florida Atlantic, Ohio State. I believe this is Fields' first or second play as a Buckeye. And here I'll tell you a little story as a Buckeye fan. They saw this and everybody was like, "Oh, great. He's a runner, but can he throw?" everybody overreacts, and then now we're going to see some deep throw. I think he's the best deep ball guy out of the top guys.
Him and Mac Jones have an argument.
Yeah, Jones is really good. Yeah, I guess I'm not putting Mac as a top guy. I don't think very highly of him.
Okay,
translate. Okay. But you're right. He is though. He is. I don't think that.
And here's the thing about the passing ability, because that's something I hear a lot too about Justin Fields is, but what people don't know is like the Elite 11 camps in high school, right? Those are for the top 11 quarterbacks in the country, and they go and they compete. There's no running in those. You don't use your legs. You use your arm.
Yep. And it's all.
He beat Trevor Lawrence in the Elite 11 camp. Like he had a better camp than Trevor Lawrence did. And we've talked highly about Trevor Lawrence all day. So I mean, he can throw the football.
Oh yeah,
he can throw really well, Justin Fields.
But I mean, there's he's a freak athlete too, just like the other two. I mean, these guys are all just next level athletes.
Yeah. I said he was a smaller, better passing version of Cam Newton.
Way better pass, like not even close passing version though.
Yeah, not even close.
Yeah, Cam is really, I don't know what's up with Cam. But what I always liked about him, he's very kind of like you say with Cam, he's very sly, like about going in, like makes a little move here, a little move there. I mean, these are, of course, I've seen all these 100 times. I could watch these all day, but he throws from every angle. He throws to every spot on the field. He throws every trajectory type ball.
Is that this year's Indiana game? I think so.
No, there's fans there.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
I mean, look at this. We're talking 60 in the air. Well, I mean, effortless too.
I mean, listen, here's the thing.
Look at the touch, right? That's an NFL throw right there. That's an NFL route and an NFL throw.
Yeah, I agree. And, all these guys can keep mocking Zach Wilson, number 2. And, if he goes to the Jets at 2 or whoever trades up for 2, then so be it. But I think Justin Fields is going to have the better NFL career, and it will just be something else that we'll laugh at some point in the future. I'm not saying that Zach Wilson is going to be a bum, but I think Justin Fields will be the better player.
Yeah. Of course, stuff like this, like once again, that's pretty irrelevant in the NFL. You're going to get killed if you do that. Because he's not a. I mean, I know his highlights are great. He's not a running quarterback. He doesn't even really like to run. But look at that! My gosh,
that's ridiculous.
His placement when guys are running away from him is so good. It's just okay. We're at the 35-yard line on a line. I mean, over top of a guy's helmet. Just he throws to covered guys. You know, that's a good sign. You know, people, scouts love to watch that. You want to, but look at these ones going away from him. I mean, look at that. That's NFL. I mean, that's an NFL route, an NFL throw. Back shoulder throw, they call it now. Then this is him being a freak. That's irrelevant. I mean, I would think any of them could do that.
I agree.
And these ones, look, I mean, just.
That's insane.
The ball placement. And that's a great catch by Mack. You know, that's. But look at this. Here, okay, so let's look at this because I think Fields, this is his bread and butter. This is why he's going to get paid. This next play, look how the velocity he puts on it and still drops this next play in here. It's amazing. It looks like he's going to throw it out of the building. He's standing at the 10. Full release, full spin, and look where he's only throwing this ball maybe 25 yards in the air, and it's perfect.
Those throws in the corner are going to be the ones that you're going to be asked to make all the time.
And he does, like, it's amazing. He just has that spin like the great ones do, like Manning, Brady, and those guys, how it's a full motion. They don't, as to where we talked about Cam, his thing is like just take some speed off the ball rather than it's just endless with him. His arm talent's just off the charts.
Now my knock with Zach Wilson, Justin Fields is this, and it even showed its head in the Clemson game. And I hate to keep going back to the Indiana game and Northwestern game, but it's his two worst games that he's played in his career. I think he hangs on to one particular target way too long.
Yep.
And when he's pressured, I think he panics. But both of those are some things that could be taught. But this is why I feel like he should go to a team like Atlanta, where they're going to keep Matt Ryan for a year, and he's going to sit behind and he can learn.
It'd be perfect if he's lucky enough that something like that would happen. Here's another one of these. Here's a flag route. I mean, that's perfect. Oh yeah. Hanging on to the ball too long is definitely a thing. And a lot of college quarterbacks suffer from that because they're always the best player on the field, and so it's almost like a great basketball player to where like they tend to over dribble a little bit because they know that their best chances with the ball in their hands. But you're right. He's got to speed it up. And then we saw the Clemson game, just one game, how he fixed it.
He was dominant in that game, but it still reared its head in that game too. Like there were instances where he put some balls in some situations that could have been intercepted. It resulted out goodly or in a good way, but you didn't have to risk it like that.
Yeah, he's got to speed up a little bit, and that's a lot of High State's offense too. Some of it's theirs to blame. It's a
one read system.
Yeah, and it can take a while. We've watched it for years, and it can be a little frustrating. But they want to get their athletes moving is the thing. Like they're not in a hurry they're not going to dink and dunk. They want yards. So I'm curious to see what the coaching how he does handle that. I think that's a great point. Like, can he speed that up? Like we saw Herbert do it. Herbert had some of these knocks, and they were all erased last year. He played great.
But here's the thing. You talk about this all the time on the Buckeye Remix, Jeff, is he didn't play for Urban Meyer. And a lot of those coaches, like Ryan Day, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but just from like what I'm gathering on the outside, kind of a laid-back guy compared to Urban Meyer. Like Urban Meyer is like a drill sergeant, where I would say that like not as much for Ryan Day. Would that be correct?
Oh yeah, they're different coaches. Yeah, Urban was more of a CEO, kind of a figurehead,
Yeah.
recruiter, as to where Day is more of a coach, an actual like. I think he has. So like when Urban was there, whoever was in behind him would have been Fields' coach, whether it be Ryan Day or whether it was a Tom Herman or somebody. Like Urban wouldn't have been like the way he was with Tebow in Florida. Like Urban didn't do that anymore with his quarterbacks. As to where that's what you're seeing with Day and Fields. You're exactly right. They're two completely different types of coaches.
Yes, and depending on where he goes, like if he goes to Washington, that's how Ron Rivera is. He coaches just like Urban Meyer. So can you handle the aggressive coaching? We'll see.
Yeah.
But lucky for him, some of these teams are hiring younger coaches, which are more player friendly.
Well, this is the Sean McVay rule. Like everybody wants to get that relationship. If he, everybody wants the young, relatable coach. That relationship has to be strong with whoever's coach, whether it's the offensive coordinator, head coach, and the quarterback has to be a really good one. And you're right. I think that's a good call on Fields. Like he's obviously coachable, so he has to go to somebody that'll work with him and not, Haskins is not Fields, but I think Washington's a great point to where like it was like do your job or get out rather than a relationship. It was some of it was Haskins' fault, but I don't think it was 100% Haskins' fault.
And that's why I'm worried about him in Pittsburgh too, because Pittsburgh's kind of the same way. It's high to maintain. They're not really there to build a relationship. I mean,
exactly.
Big Ben practically runs the place. So I mean,
yeah, like I talk about with the Rams, like golf. Look at this. That was a great play. He come back off the sideline off of an injury. That was the next play back off of going out for an injury, by the way.
When was the last I don't mean to like slam Michigan fans at all, but Jeff, when was the last time that Michigan was actually like competitive versus Ohio? Like 2000?
They took us we went down to overtime like 4 years ago. And then we wound up. I think we went to the playoffs. We went to the playoffs the year we got throttled by Clemson in the playoffs. Michigan took us to overtime.
Okay,
and they were ranked like number 4 coming into the game or something like that.
Because like I haven't seen them be that good under Jim Harbaugh.
They had that 1 year. They even won a BC. Or I think they wouldn't have been a BCS bowl, but yeah, a BCS bowl under him. One of the big 5 bowls or whatever under him. Like early on, I think they beat. I can't remember. I think it was probably an SEC team.
Don't get me started on Jim Harbaugh. That's a different topic.
Yeah. They can have him. They can have him. So here's what we know.
You like it because, I mean, it's resulted out well for Ohio State.
You know what? I'm actually not one of those guys because I don't think it matters who they have. I think it's the talent on the field. That's just my opinion. I'm not we got to keep him forever guy. I still think they should have kept Rich Rodriguez. I think that was a huge mistake that they should have kept Rodriguez and kept recruiting his players and put together something. I think
the Denard Robinson team was really good.
Yeah, and I think and then when they switched over, they lost those couple years because Harbaugh's a totally different type of guy. And then Harbaugh's a really good coach, but he has to have a lot of certain things in place. And when he doesn't have those in place, when he doesn't have Andrew Luck and he doesn't have offensive line like that, we've seen it break down as opposed to just adjusting. Now, that's easy for me to say Ohio State can roll probably 20 different guys out there and still almost make the playoffs. I mean, the talent level is just not the same right now. All right, let's move on to. So that was the 3 big ones. Let's there's a short one here. Let's watch a little Trey Lance here.
And he's a guy that's going to be hard to because he played 1 game this year.
Yeah. Luckily,
he played in wasn't that great throwing the ball wise. Yeah,
he ran it almost the whole time. Which you're going to like this highlights. It's a quick one, but this guy is a freak athlete. He absolutely deserves to get drafted just by what his tape looks like.
Reminds me of Russell Wilson. I wrote that in my article when
6'3", 220, a bigger
Russell Wilson.
This is a big, strong kid right here. Now, keep in mind, like he is playing against FCS talent, but he's playing behind FCS talent, so you got to kind of weigh the two out there.
I watched a game where he played Butler as a film thing, and they didn't have a chance.
But I mean, the arm. His is all physical. His is all what you see physically because you can't. I mean, they have talent there, obviously, but it's so hard to judge. I mean, not to pick on 58 there, but he doesn't look like he's going to play for Clemson.
Oh my god!
And I know that this is good. I haven't got to watch any of the FCS this year. Have you watched any of it since it started?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I haven't either.
So FCS started. Does that mean North Dakota State's playing?
Yeah, but Lance isn't playing.
Obviously, Trey isn't, but North Dakota State is.
Yeah, yeah. The whole conference is playing. They started last week. I haven't got to watch it. I think it might be on internet only. But like stuff like this, great. That's great. But I don't know what you make out of like North Dakota State running up the middle. Like he's going to be better than everybody on the field. Obviously, it's great to see how big and strong and athletic he is. But
I think let's see if you can see it here. It's just sometimes his footwork is what I worry about with Trey Lance. Because he's a little hoppy in the pocket, like a little scattered feet, a little like scared.
Kind of leans on his arm.
Get the ball out.
Yep.
Like I mean, I saw that against teams like I said, I watched the game where he played Butler. Like no one even knew Butler had a football team. So I mean,
so you told me that.
So the fact, and he was doing that there too. So it's like, you know,
footwork's huge, man. That's a great point. Like we saw that the first three guys we watched all had really good footwork.
Run at him, and they've been successful at it so far. Action for Lance downfield, man open, wide open in the end zone. Touchdown.
I mean, I don't know if that's gonna be something you're gonna see here in highlights, but that's something
that
when you watch full games and you're watching him, you're like, ugh.
That's not great right there. I mean, as far as like if you're going to nitpick, here we go. Here's a step. Let's see if he plants. There you go. That's what you're talking about right there. That is not
happy feet.
Let's roll this back real quick since you brought it up. Great call on this. Look at this.
I mean,
look at this.
That's not right there, but yeah.
But in the NFL, you don't have that time. You're on your back. That's a good call, man. That was actually very poor foot. Look at that. He opened his shoulder up. He did a lot of things wrong right there. Let's see if here we go to draw play.
I mean, that's Butler right there. I mean, you're just not going to do like that stuff versus.
No, that's why I said these plays are irrelevant. I'm not saying without a doubt. I'm not saying the kid's not talented, and it may not matter. He may be Carson Wentz and translate perfectly because 6'3", 220 is 6'3", 220. Underwater. Let's see here. Here you go. See, that's just arm though. That's not the same footwork and planning and all that. Like this isn't what Fields and Lawrence look like.
And you're not getting some of that. You know, I was talking about the core rotation with Lawrence. You're not getting some of that same core rotation.
Here we go here. Let's see what that's probably the best one, and it was all right. That's probably the best one we saw.
You want that core rotation to be violent.
But he's really not throwing it like – and this is just one highlight package. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's really not throwing – we're not seeing those NFL throws and routes. But that's just one highlight. I'm not saying he didn't do them, but there's not a lot of those flag patterns and those back shoulder throws. But the guys are open. What's he supposed to do?
And those are the things.
That's
the thing, Jeff. Like the recent mock draft that Todd McShay put out, he had Trey Lance above Justin Fields, and it's like, come on, you know.
That's
like
insane.
we just watched 2 highlight tapes of these guys. You could tell a big difference.
It's a huge difference. See, you're right. These are all. See, that's not an NFL throw. I know you think it is, but it seems like it is, but it's not because safeties and cornerbacks in the NFL. That's easy. I mean, this is just lobbing it. You know, that's not what we're talking about with Fields and how he throws the ball with velocity and still puts it, you know, makes it a very catchable ball. Let's see here. I wish these highlights were less running.
I mean, but I'm starting to see a lot of like what you brought up with Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. A lot of, you know, he's seeing a little bit of pocket and taking off and running, not really hanging in there. I mean, he did on that one, but
yeah. And obviously, 6 minutes, you know, it's hard to judge a kid's career, but that's what we're doing today. And it's no different than a lot of quarterbacks are part of their games running. Like it's not he's just doing what he's supposed to do. But we're trying. But even that right there, like you don't see that type of pass in the NFL last for like you don't see a 15-year guy do this. You gotta maybe Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see him step into that a little bit more. I mean, you're not. Come on.
Yeah,
That tight end was wide open.
Yeah, and and once again, not his fault.
Yeah, not his fault. But.
Totally rooting for the guy. There you go.
Took a shot there. That was against Butler.
Yeah. Still little happy feet, but not egregious.
I'm just gonna mute my mic and stop my cam. I'll be right back. I gotta go take care of something.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Play action, Lance. Wide open again. Another tight end and another touchdown. Babbage has the second of the day.
Zero interceptions. Oh my God. That's crazy. I'm just having a snack, waiting on Stuart, everybody. Don't judge me. We only got one guy left, and we'll get out of here. Perfect timing. Wow, no interceptions. That's crazy. We'll queue up Mr. Ehlinger. So yeah, it's hard to get the tape on on these guys, to get the all 22s and things like that. And all you can really do is look at these highlight packages, but it's just kind of gives you a feel for it. It gives you something to look at, as far as like Stuart talked about, as far as like footwork, even on their good throws or their bad throws. Obviously an NFL scout's going to watch 20 hours of this stuff for sure. And so we're just trying to go through a quick thing, kind of brainstorm, inspire us, to some things we see and some takes we have on the guys. So when Stuart gets back here, we'll check out Sam Ehlinger, and we don't have him very high on our board, but we were having a discussion about it earlier on OTBN, our chat page, and some people think he translates to the NFL a little better than I do. So you missed it right there at the end, Stuart. Trey Lance had 0 interceptions in 2019. That's
impressive.
28-0. That's pretty good stats. So for the fun of it, since we had a little not debate, but conversation about this morning, we queued up Sam Ehlinger here. I don't, for not one second, do I think like that I'm going to see him as an NFL starting quarterback in the next 5-6 years, but I thought I would do him justice, and we'll watch a little footage on him and see what we think.
Here's my thing, Jeff. Coming into the year, he was my dark horse, and I said if he can make a jump like I saw Jalen Hurts make in the passing ability, he would be a guy that I could see going round 2. But he didn't make that jump.
I like him as a college football player. I just don't. After watching this year, a lot of the same things you just said. It's like 4 years, and it's pretty much it's still just being a really good athlete. And but he actually, even on this small highlight package here, he makes some better throws and stuff than I realized. I was probably a little hard on him because that's a good throw. That's as good as anything we saw Lance do. This is a big, strong kid, and he's making the throws. So I guess what we're holding against him is Texas wasn't as good as we thought they should have been.
That, and I didn't see him take the leaps passing wise I expected to make. I mean, that was a good ball placement there.
But I don't know how, so here's what always happens. We always talk about arm strength. We're talking about these quarterbacks. And then they'll go to the combine and they'll throw the ball 60 yards in the air, and everybody's like, well, there's no question about their arm strength.
Preach.
But the question is, it's how when you recognize your where you're throwing it, how fast can you get it there, and then how accurate. And that's when you see some of these guys that can throw it, like Justin Fields has, really good arm strength, but he can put it on a dime at 50 yards. I swear Ehlinger sometimes to me looks like he has to force it a little bit.
Yeah.
So I know that at the combine or not, they're not going to do the combine, but say his pro day, it's going to look great, but I don't know how functional his arm strength is.
But you're also throwing on air too. I mean, I would hope it looks great.
Yeah. And we saw that with, everybody compares this guy to Tebow, but that's a great example of that arm. We saw it with Tebow. We watched him play for 4 years at Florida, looked great, made every throw, but his arm strength wasn't fantastic. Like if we're outside and we're all having a throwing competition, he does great. But in a game, his game arm strength wasn't as great with that long throwing motion.
Tebow didn't even have a great pro day. I remember one time he threw the ball and the receiver ran into the barricade that they had up. That's how bad of a throw it was. I was like, my goodness.
But I'll tell you what,
I'm a Tebow guy.
Sam's footwork is better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's got some good things, and I felt like his high end coming into this year, I felt like he could have been a Carson Wentz type of guy, and his low end, I felt he was going to be like a Jalen Hurts. I think he's going to be a guy who, just like Ian Book, who I like a lot, but Ian Book is going to be a guy who's going to have a 10 or 15-year career, but I can't guarantee you he's going to be a starter for 10 or 15.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see with Ehlinger, because another thing, everybody calls him a fullback playing quarterback, which is harsh. But I don't think that his athletic ability translates as easy either. I don't necessarily maybe one game, he might be able to catch some guys off guard, but he's not a freak athlete when he's running the ball. That's his system with Tom Herman. I mean, JT Barrett has probably, I don't know, I bet JT Barrett has over 3,000 rushing yards at Ohio State. That doesn't mean he can run the ball in the NFL. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how athletic Ehlinger really is in the NFL level.
Do you remember last year, Jeff, everyone talking about the Eagles using Jalen Hurts as the Taysom Hill type of guy?
Yeah.
Let me tell you, if there's a quarterback in this draft that can mimic what Taysom Hill's doing, we're watching his highlights right now.
You think so?
Yes. I think he's good enough athletically to get some of the same things out of him that you can get out of Taysom Hill, and he's a good enough thrower that if he's on the field once or twice a game or 3 times a game, he can make some things happen. He's not the guy I'm going to pay $60 million to be my franchise, but he's a guy who can be a gimmick player, as we like to call it, with like Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I guess. So when I go into the draft, I think about I think how many guys are coming out. So let's say we got Ehlinger. Where do you got him roughly? 9th, 10th?
Let's see. I have. Let me bring up the list.
Yeah, good.
I'll just read off the list, and then. So I have Lawrence, Fields, Wilson, Lance, Jones, Trask, Jamie Newman, Brock Purdy, Ian Book, Kellen Mond. He's not even in my top 10.
Right. That's how. And so I guess where I'm at with Ehlinger is, I don't put a whole lot of effort into worrying about it. I really don't think that. I just don't think he's an NFL quarterback. So I don't really spend a lot of time. I brought this up because our partner Mo Murphy is a little high on him in the draft. So I thought, and it's the tape does look good. I just don't know that if they need that many quarterbacks in the NFL that he can work his way up to staying around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't need that many quarterbacks every year.
Yeah, and there's some guys I just listed a whole host of guys that. I mean, I'm not even a big Kellen Mond guy. I'm probably the guy that does not see much out of Kellen Mond out of everybody that's scouting quarterbacks this year, and I think he's got more to offer than Ehlinger. I would have Ehlinger around 11th or 12th best quarterback in this draft. Right. But
you're talking 12. I guess if every team takes a quarterback, but I just as of right now, I don't think he's on an NFL roster to start the year next year. I guess that's where I'm at with Ehlinger.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's terrible. I just think that it's a tough league to crack into.
Are you a Trask guy?
I was, okay. But what worries me about Trask is, and I know it's so hard to say because everybody brings up Brady, but man, I don't know if he's athletic enough to play in the league right now. if he goes to the perfect spot, him and Mac Jones are two guys that if they go to just the right spot to where they can run, an offense like, I guess kind of like Jared Goff, he's a little mobile, but it's pretty much like get rid of the ball kind of thing. I think that he can make it, but I don't think he can go just anywhere. I think he can get swallowed up if he goes somewhere that doesn't cater to his things. I like his ball. I like the way he throws the ball, though.
Yeah, I agree. What are your thoughts on Kellen Mond? I'm not a big Kellen Mond guy.
I don't know a lot about him, to be honest with you.
His throwing motion throws me off. I'm a big throwing motion guy, and it really messes with me.
And that's a real thing. He's just not somebody that I got to watch a lot. I probably need to go watch some tape on him before I would want to say, yay or nay. And we've seen some of these guys come out of these offenses like that are better than we thought they were going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Newman, I don't know what to make of Newman. I thought he was a good quarterback, and then he didn't play this year. So I have no idea what he would have done with a really good team.
You want my opinion?
Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely.
I think it's a good thing he didn't play this year. Because what would have happened is he would have gone to camp and he would have competed against a guy like JT Daniels, and they would have watched JT Daniels throw the ball, and then they would have watched Jamie Newman throwing the ball, and Newman wouldn't have stood a chance.
And I like Daniels.
I do too. I think JT don't get me started on JT Daniels, but I love JT. But I think Jamie Newman needed this year off to work with a guy like potentially Jordan Palmer, someone like that, to really, work on the throwing the football things. I think he could be a Dak Prescott, a guy who gets drafted in the 4th round and really steps up and proves he could be a top quarterback. It just depends, how does he improve on throwing the football?
Yeah. And there's so many things too. It's like there's no way that we could put these guys behind, NFL, put them in front of NFL defenses and have them read it and recognize. Because if there's anything we found out this year in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, it's about recognizing mismatches and calling protections. That's what Brady does better than anybody. It's like recognize the mismatch. Like we saw Mahomes failed at that miserably in the Super Bowl. Never saw. We couldn't see anything coming, even though they were rushing 4 people. So until there's no way to judge. There's no way to judge it.
Yeah.
Of us, me and you. I mean, the NFL guys can judge it, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to bring Jamie Newman in and have him diagnose defenses for us. I wish we could.
No kidding. Who else doesn't get talked about? Didn't even make my top 10, but he may not be coming out in this draft, so that may not be why he's talked about. The kid out of Miami used to play at Houston.
Well, he said he's staying.
Did he? Okay. That's why he's
hurt. Derek King.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said he was staying. He got hurt in a bowl game. He blew his knee out in the bowl game. And so now, he's still staying, but now we don't even know if he's going to be fully healthy starting next year. He took a real bad. He is an interesting one. He's a classic little guy. We all know everybody's going to compare him to Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield. They always compare the Kyler Murray. And here's the thing I want to say about Kyler Murray. I love Kyler Murray. He is a valid NFL quarterback. His size does affect him. It is a downside. Like he has to work a little bit harder every single play, because of that. And I think it wore on him a little this year. I don't, when people say that, and they dismiss it and they're like, Russell Wilson, Drew Brees, those guys do have to work really hard because of their height. Drew Brees played Hall of Fame career on his tiptoes. He literally played on his tiptoes. He learned to play that way. And so it is a little more effort, and that does wear a guy down as to where a guy like Brady, the game, it's a little easier for him to stand in the pocket, because he just, these are just real things. It's no different than like any other sport. It is true. When your offensive linemen are 6'8", defensive linemen are 6'7", it's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Russ and Drew play taller than the 5'11", 6 foot that they are.
And I don't know if Murray does.
And that's the thing. Yeah.
I like Murray. He's a good player. I think he can win. But just like Breeze, you got to play a certain way and have certain techniques. It's no different than a small basketball player like Allen Iverson. You got to play a certain way, but you got to play so much. It's got to be 20% more effort. And I think it wears on those guys. So like when you're bringing a guy like say De'Aaron King, you're going to give him a shot. You got to know that like this guy's it's an uphill battle. It's a real thing.
I agree.
That's why like a lot of these guys, it's easier for him. Like Carson Wentz, he's so physically gifted that he's not a great quarterback, but it still was easier for him because he didn't have to fight against the physical side of it either. So it's just the truth.
Yeah. Hey, I noticed you got some new background things there. You got rid of or at least moved your Miami thing and hung up the. Is that for the WandaVision?
Yeah. I put some comic books up there. I've been adding to it. I've had to take a couple things down here and there, but now I'm kind of in comic book mode. I put some comics up there. Obviously, the Joker always stays. Like he's not going anywhere.
So thoughts on the? Have you seen the latest trailer for Justice League?
No, for the Snyder cut.
Yeah.
No,
Dude,
no, I haven't.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, a lot of people are. I'm not a Snyder fan, but I want it to be good. Like I'll watch it. Like I can't wait.
I'm stoked.
I liked Man of Steel, and
that was really good.
I like Batman versus Superman better than most people.
Thank you.
Justice League, I know Whedon got involved. They blame it all on him. Whatever. Justice League was messed up.
Trash.
It was messed up. The only thing they did wrong in Batman versus Superman is they should have stopped it before the end. They shouldn't have. They didn't need to. That should have been 2 movies or something. Like that was a really good movie, and then it just kept going. And I don't think we needed the Doomsday and all that. I just thought it was too much to pack into one movie. And that was just my opinion. Everything looked fine and everything. It was just so much to pack into one movie. Like how can we have Batman versus Superman and Doomsday in the same movie? That's way too much. Way too much work.
Yep.
They should be movies. But
we need to do a movie show.
Yeah, we should, man. Hey, Bill, Jeff needs help anytime.
Jeff needs help.
Yeah, should be doing the first. We're doing the first film room soon. Me and Chris is doing Any Given Sundays first. Yeah.
Which movie?
Any Given Sundays first.
Oh, so good.
That's the first one. Yeah, we're working on it right now. What's that?
Is that your first time watching it?
No. But I'm not a huge fan of it. Like I didn't know it by heart. You know what I mean? I remember watching it when it came out, but that was 21 years ago. And then it's just been on here and there, but I'm not like, it's just not one that's stuck in my brain. I don't love it. But I did enjoy watching it for the show. I had more fun. Than I thought I was going to have. So I'm pretty excited about doing the show. Yep. So, all right, man, thanks for being on. Thanks for doing this. This was fun. Get the juices flowing. Like I said, we got the kind of hard push for NFL draft the month of March at OTBN. So obviously you're going to be highly involved in that with rankings and things like that. But it's a lot of fun. I always like to, if nothing else, it's just fun to watch highlights. Yeah. It feels like college football was a year ago already, if we're being honest. Like, I just can't believe it feels like it's been forever since we've seen a game. So pretty excited. So maybe we'll do it with running backs or cornerbacks or safeties, whoever, man.
We should do running backs, your favorite position.
I do need to do my running back show to clear up the controversy around.
I don't even get it. Like, I don't even know where it came from.
Oh, because I don't. Here's the thing. I don't believe in paying for the running back position. And I've got all the documentation. I've got all the stats. I've got all the history of it. It doesn't translate into victories. You can go down the list of the highest paid running backs ever, and most of them don't even make a Super Bowl. A lot of them don't make the playoffs. There's a lot of injuries. And if you look at the Super Bowl winning running backs, almost all of them are guys that had either 1-year careers, or you don't remember their name, or they didn't do anything. It just doesn't translate into victories. And it all stemmed off when they paid Ezekiel Elliott. I said that was the worst thing Dallas could ever do. And as of now, I'm right. And so that's where it came from. And then it became Jeff hates running backs. It got a little carried away. I put value on the position of running back, just not, I don't think it's a priority as far as paying. It's a platoon position to me. And until Derrick Henry, 2,000 yards and doesn't win a playoff game. It's just, it doesn't translate.
And Yeah. Here's a question. I mean, 2,000 yards, that's ridiculous. But would you get some of the same production if you put Alvin Kamara behind the Titans?
Yeah, and Kamara is an outlier because he has translated into victories and the money that they've paid him, but that was just this year. You know what I mean? He's one of the arguments that people can throw at me of like Kamara. They're right. Cook was close. He took all the money, but I mean his team didn't make the playoffs. You know, he's really good, but the issue it's just like baseball. It's just like Moneyball. You don't have just like they famously said, you don't need one person to replace Derrick Henry's stats. You can use two.
Exactly.
Steven brought up the New York Giants. When they had Bradshaw, they had the three-headed monsters. Bradshaw and Jacob. It's about the total production. And I'm not saying there's not mismatches, but it just and you just look and look and look and look, and it just doesn't translate into wins. And then the amount of money that they take up, and they almost always get injured and lose a year of that salary cap, and it cripples a team sometimes. And but that's what it stems from. That's what it stems
from. The Colts play. They use that running back by committee.
Yep.
Style. I mean, they have Jonathan Taylor, Naeem Hines.
What they don't want to do is they want to use Jonathan Taylor. He's playing great. And then when he comes up for his contract, you let him go because that's the problem. And then they'll pay him. And then that's when the problems happen. It's whether it's Saquon Barkley or whoever, that's just how it's been through the history of football. It's been a long time since a running back was the difference maker on a football team. Even the Walter Payton, years, he had the one Super Bowl and he was a big part of that year. He wasn't the centerpiece, famously didn't even score in the Super Bowl. And yet they was the most dominant Super Bowl team ever. It's just, it's just on and on and on. Yeah. I'm piling stats up for a while. I need to get the story out and do the show about it so it makes sense, but it's pretty staggering.
All right. I'm interested. Interested. Did you read my speaking of running backs real quick? Before I didn't know if you were wanting to end it soon or whatever, but did you read my latest article about Marshawn Lynch?
No, I don't think I knew. I don't think I saw it posted. I'll have to check it out.
Okay. Because I've been encountering this argument for years about how Marshawn Lynch is, whether he's a Hall of Famer or not.
Okay.
And here's the argument. So I'm going to do yards first, and then we'll break down accomplishments later.
Okay.
But if you look at yards first, who's the bare minimum in the Hall of Fame that the bare minimum that you say, okay, this is the number of yards you have to reach the Hall of Fame? Who do you know that person?
You're saying
like here's the bare minimum of yards from like the running back that's made the Hall of Fame. He has the least amount of yards. Here's the bare minimum you have to reach.
The bare minimum is probably Gale Sayers.
Gale Sayers and then Terrell Davis. I compared Marshawn Lynch to Terrell Davis. He has 3,000 more rushing yards than Terrell Davis. He has 18 more touchdowns than Terrell Davis. The only thing Davis has is that MVP because of the 2,000-yard rushing season, and he has 2 Super Bowls. Mm-hmm. Marshawn would have had 2 Super Bowls if they give him an idiot. So, I mean, I clearly think he's a Hall of Famer. I break it down more in the article, but I clearly think he's a Hall of Famer compared to some of the
other. He's a Hall of Famer. To me, I mean, he's pretty healthy, had a lot of years. What do you think about Myles Gaskin? We got a quick question.
I haven't watched much of him. I haven't watched much Myles Gaskin. I wasn't a big fan when it came out, but I know he's been playing really well here lately. So he plays for Miami, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let you speak on him because you watch more of his games than I.
Well, you know how I feel about running backs. He's good, but once again, I think he's the exact example that I want to use. Is like there's a lot of really good running backs that can play good. His speed, I mean, he's very valuable. It reminds me of I like that type of back, versatile, can do a lot of things. But once again, I also don't want to pay him $30 million a year.
Here's the thing, okay. Let me ask you. I'm not saying he's going to get 2,000 yards because, like I said, that's crazy. But if Marlon Mack played in Tennessee, would he get 1,200, 1,300 yards? Probably. I mean, he almost got 1,000 yards in Indianapolis before he got hurt, and then he got 1,000 yards, I believe, last year. I mean, he's a good running back. He just didn't get the credit because of how Purdy is.
No,
And
I think that
100 yards
I think
easily.
Henry's had a couple freak years, and he is that, like, he is at that level right now. And I think that's probably like, I think if Henry's at 2,000, he's probably, honestly, he's probably 500 yards better. And there's something to be said about being able to do it, because we don't know that there's the other argument could be if Henry was behind a Colts line, would he have 2,000? Probably.
He probably have like 2,500.
That's what I mean. So like, I think Henry deserves everything, that he's got. It just doesn't seem to matter. And then by the time, and then all the money, but I think Henry was on, I think he might be on a, what do you call it? Shoot, well, I can't think of it. The 1 year salary thing. What? I don't know why. I can't think what they're going to do to Prescott.
Yeah.
It escapes me right now, but all right, man, I got to get out of here. That was fun. I like doing some running back talk, some college football talk.
All right.
Appreciate the question, Logan. Thank you, Jelani. Thank everybody that watched. I hope everybody has, once again, be safe if you're in the Midwest and there's all the ice and everything. Take it easy out there. We don't want any accidents. We want you back next time. So go check out Stuart Brooking at The Morning Brew with Stu. Does some good stuff. Check out Off the Ball Network. Obviously, you just talked about, he wrote a nice article about Marshawn Lynch, and even I haven't read yet, and I'm the vice president. So I feel bad that I did not, I overlooked that. There were some issues with the site this weekend, but I'm going to go catch up on everybody's stuff. So, hey, thanks a lot for being on, Stuart.
No problem.
You have a good day, man.
You too.